partner. He's a brother. We connected very easily because he's a man of vision. When you find people who are not living only for themselves or for their personal needs, you should respect them. That's one of the hallmarks of leaders. You know, people who want to contribute to the greater good of society. You know, I wrote on my blog or the post I shared 2 days ago that the difference between success and greatness is that success is becoming all that you can be for your personal good, for your individual cause, for the betterment of your family. You've got the resources. You go abroad for summer, you travel, you take your families abroad, you come back, you have a car, you have a house around the country. That's success, and it's good, but that's a small life, you know? You want to live and become a comfort shoulder to the weak. You want to assist the people who are vulnerable. You know, you want to contribute to solving societal problems. You know, you want to contribute to a world beyond the one you know and the one you own. There's a lot happening around that dynamics, and that's what leaders represent. Abiodun is doing a lot of work around the bilateral space. We work together in Friends of Nigeria, Europe. We've hosted lots of events, like God bless was saying. We've facilitated the participation of French companies in Nigeria, and also Nigerian companies seeking to externalize and internationalize their businesses. Abiodun is a development consultant. He's been working in that space for quite a while. He's worked with the World Bank, he's worked with the European Union, he's worked with many private sector companies, and we both sit on the board of Friends of Nigeria. He's going to be speaking to the role of the diaspora. The diaspora has a lot to do. Migration is as old as man. We're having a chat this morning, We're talking about how, even in Nigeria, people migrate. So we cannot talk about the legitimacy of migration. Migration is as old as man. My parents were not born in Lagos. I was born in Lagos, but my parents were born in Edo State, in a remote place in Isha. You know, that's where they were born. But they migrated in search of greener pastures and gave birth to me in Lagos. So if you only scale that, you can only see why people migrate from Nigeria out of the country. Jesus had to go to Egypt for a while so that he can come back when the coast was clear. You know, so Moses had to go to Egypt to learn the systems. He got the exposure. That's why he could also stand in the front of Pharaoh. Pharaoh was almost like a relative to himself. And we'll run through a few thoughts. Then we'll have a question and answer. He has to be in a meeting in the next 5 minutes. So we'll try to see what we can do with the time we have. Please keep your questions coming. Share on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Let's get the conversation out there. Thank you. Abiodun, please welcome.
Yeah, let me start by saying happy birthday to you, Unity. Welcome to the Big 30. Thank you for the awesome work you've been doing. It's a privilege to be here, and also good evening or good afternoon, good morning to everyone from wherever part of the world you're watching from. I enjoyed the first session, and I think God bless us sets the tone for a robust conversation this weekend. Just to start off, like you mentioned, I wear 3 caps. I am a sustainable development consultant, so I have a development consultant cap I wear, and that allows me to work with organizations such as the United Nations, Commonwealth, and the African Development Bank. And I also wear the entrepreneurship cap too, and this actually is one of the things I do on a daily basis. I consult for different private sector actors and startups. So my focus is always on African entrepreneurs with respect to giving them funding and also help them build capacity to be able to create more jobs across the continent. And then the third cap I wear, which is what I'm going to discuss about tonight, from Paris, is my diaspora cap. And that makes me a very patriotic Nigerian. And so from what we've engaged so far with Unity, the idea of tonight's discussion is to, be able to spotlight the role of the diaspora, with respect to leadership, governance, but more focus will be obviously given to Nigeria, which is the core of the discourse. Okay, so I want to say thank you to Unity for the invitation. And I liked is also one of the things you mentioned while we were discussing with God Bless. He's doing an amazing work you know, and you mentioned a part of bridges, the guys who will make the bridge. So, which is, I think, one aspect the diaspora covers, you know, in all that we do. You know, we have the foot soldiers, the likes of God Bless, and the NGOs, the young people doing a lot of work on the local scene. But just like, you know, in a military or in a war zone, you have the, you know, ground soldiers, and you have the soldiers on air, the air forces. So while the ground ones are, you know, going into the rooms, getting out the criminals and terrorists, you have the guys who drop the bombs from above. And I see the diaspora, you know, in that sense. But just to put a sort of context, you know, to what we're discussing tonight, you know, I checked on the word diaspora. You know, most of us talk about diaspora. What is diaspora in itself? And if you look deeper, you find out that diaspora actually is a Greek word and divided into two, dia and spora. Dia suggests, or it means over, and spora means scattering. And so if you combine both words together, you know, the Greek word diaspora actually means to be scattered over, you know, people, mostly people scattered everywhere. And that word actually, you know, got its roots from, the Jews, you know, when they were exiled, you know, in Babylon in the 5th century. So the idea of them moving out of the country and going on exile, you know, the word diaspora started becoming a word from there. And just a brief story, I would have never imagined that coming to France, I mean, as most of us probably who lived in France, you would have also discovered that you'd have met a lot of Nigerians. You know, coming to France in 2014 for me was quite a strategic move, but I was more particular about meeting more Francophones, which I did. But I would never have imagined meeting a critical mass of Nigerians, to let you know that, you know, wherever there is life, wherever there is happiness, wherever there is anything good happening, Nigerians are always there. So if you go to a country or a city and you don't find a Nigeria, you should ask yourself what you're doing here, you know. And it was this that obviously emanated to, you know, what we do right now with Friends of Nigeria, which Unity also is a co-founder. You know, we try to actually, you know, dig deeper, doing the sojourn and, you know, going around meeting Nigerians here and there, and to find out that beyond people in churches, in religious circles, if you dig deeper, we began to realize that beyond what appears on the surface, respect to, that many people come to France illegally, we have people who do prostitution and all of that, we've got to find out that there are Nigerians here who might be quiet, but some of them are actually, you know, company owners. And when I say company owners, they even don't have any Nigerian working with them. It's all white people, and this is companies owned by Nigerians. Some of them make, you know, millions, you know, annually. And so it was all of this that developed into creating Friends of Nigeria, which has, you know, one major, you know, core vision, which is to harness the power of the diaspora, to be able to leverage on that, you know, prowess and their capabilities to be able to, you know, reach out and ensure that nation building is at the core of what we do. And so, I mean, just for tonight, in a few minutes, I will just be trying to capture, you know, 3 areas in C's that I feel like the diaspora can harness their potential when it comes to leadership and governance. One is very obvious, and it's going to be in 3 C's, which we all know it's capital. You know, the first is diaspora capital. And that is not, you know, it's not new, it's obvious. Some of us know the numbers already with respect to finances and remittance. Unofficial report says that there are about 50 million Nigerians in diaspora, 50 million. And if you look at that, that's like combining few countries in Africa and also some in Europe. I know European countries like Bulgaria, what probably not even up to 5 million, you know, few countries here are there, about 15 million Nigerians in diaspora. And that indicates something, you know, numbers are not just numbers. There's something behind numbers, and that's why people go after numbers in terms of sales. It's soft power, because what does soft power imply? It's like you're able to make a change without coercing forceful. It's not a forceful change, but those numbers that, you know, unofficial reports states that are scattered all over the world, Nigerians, it's a soft power that, if, you know, harnessed properly, I mean, can become like a major bedrock for the developments we're envisaging. Just some few maths or some few statistics that we all know that in 2018, for instance, the remittance from abroad that came into Nigeria was 83% of the federal government budget in 2018. 83% of the total budget of the FG was captured, the remittance captured that. And also the same year, if you look at what came in from foreign direct investment, so all of the top shots, from the US, the big, big investment groups coming to invest in Nigeria, when you look at all they put together as an investment in Nigeria, whether oil and gas or wherever, if you multiply it by 11, that is what equated to what the diaspora sent back home in 2018. That tells you that, when it comes to the diaspora, one, capital is a no-brainer. And over the last 3 years, if you check the records, Nigerians in diaspora have been sending about $25 billion home on an annual basis, $25 billion every year, which equates to about 6% of Nigeria's total GDP, about 6%. And mind you, this money coming in is not really for construction and work, it's not for development, it is money to buy maybe a service generator, for burial, money for petrol in the car, money, mundane things, like every consumption. Okay. And that's why everybody's thinking, how can we harness, this potential in terms of, volume in funds to leverage on the same funds and be able to transfer that to other development areas in critical sectors. And I must appreciate the likes of NIDCOM, the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, headed by Honorable Abike. You probably have not heard about so much in the diaspora until she came into office and she was manning that position. And now you have things such as the Nigerian Diaspora Investment Summit, NDIS. And this summit probably every year allows people in diaspora to just come, and all of the bottlenecks with respect to how do we register a company, this institution, government institution, helps to leverage on their capability to help Nigerians abroad in diaspora gain foothold in the country. And so, and this is also one of the things also being friends of Nigeria in the past 3 to 4 years. On a yearly basis, we do both sides. We take Nigerian investors, we bring them to France, to see partners, to be able to work with different stakeholders across different sectors. But more importantly, we also take French investors on trade missions and help them work with Nigerian companies on a win-win basis. And that's very important because, like God bless was saying, if you're able to control the funds, he will pay the piper that takes the tune. Somewhat, you're able to also, in a way, affect governance. In a way, you're able to also touch on a bit, because at the end of the day, money aside all things, so the scripture says. And just to put also this in context, if you check China, over the past 2 decades, about 20 years, China has about 70% of their foreign direct investments come from Chinese people in diaspora. 70% of their foreign direct investment is not from the US, not from other people, but from the Chinese in the diaspora. Chinese in France, in the US, in Thailand, are the ones who bring in more investment. And that is a no-brainer because it makes no sense. And that's one of the bottlenecks which we get to find. We have, I have met many French investors, European investors who will tell me it doesn't matter whether Boko Haram is doing anything. They die, not they die, but we are here together in this country. They've been in Nigeria for years. They're not planning to leave anytime soon. And the narration is that how can we help the diasporas, be able to see these opportunities? As much as it's okay to migrate, but the idea is not to migrate and put yourself out of the system, but able to leverage on your skills, leverage on your prowess, on your financial capabilities, and be able to make investments. So I think one way we can't escape discussing about the forces capital. The diaspora has enough, reservoir of financial resources, and you can see that also in, is endorsed by what happened during the NSAS. Lots of Nigerians could not be there on ground, but their money was speaking for them because we're contributing to, to what's happening at all. The other C, that I want to talk about tonight is going to be 3 C's just because of time, is capacity, diaspora capacity, and that has to do with skills and knowledge. We talk about many times brain drain. We have doctors who are leaving Nigeria en masse, to the UK, to Canada to find greener pastures. And how do we reverse this? And the reason why we must, and it's a work for everybody here, probably in any part of the world watching this, and you're Nigerian or you're from Nigerian origin, is because history, tells us how some of the major world leaders in different sectors came to rise to that position. China is currently the hub, global hub for manufacturing, in the world, and COVID-19 has proved it. Just China, before it became a global problem, China was stopped with coronavirus. The entire world shut down. You couldn't get face mask. You couldn't get hand sanitizer, even though other countries don't lock down, because China was the heartbeat for manufacturing. Some of the things you probably manufacture, you buy online from France, from the UK, you'll be sure that just a very small Chinese company somewhere, producing that. And China rose to become that. One of the major reasons why they rose to become that is the power of their diaspora. The same thing with India. India today is a global tech hub country. When it comes to tech, is a major country in the world. Israel, you can't talk about startups in the world. Number one nation that's reputed for, producing startups and innovation in the world. Israel, many Nobel awards from that country. The common denominator amongst all of these countries on how they rose up to this is that they were able to harness their diaspora. And I can tell you many other places, probably you don't even know that diaspora started. Google was started, is a diaspora company, if I put it that way. eBay, Intel, Tesla, Elon Musk. These are all people in diaspora that had their origins from elsewhere, who went to a new country and they migrated probably with their parents or even as young kids, and they were able to leverage on the exposure to develop their skills and next potentials within the new territory and create businesses. And to shock you, to put this case in point, that you might think they are successful Nigerians, obviously, in the likes of the US, obviously rising to power. And, we have many of them recorded right now doing so well. And some of them are getting positions in the US, electoral process. But, in a place like France, probably where you think there are not many Nigerians. You need to bear witness. We've met Nigerians who own universities in France. And when I say own, they are not partners. They are not like, okay, I partnered with you to own this. They own the universities. We have Nigerians who make automobile products in the automobile sector. And these are Nigerians who would make nothing less than 10 million euros annually, nothing less than 10 millions. They're all scattered for, this is France, not the UK, not Netherlands, not Canada, not, where you probably think English spoken people would not go to. Here in France, one of our partners, also, we have lots of Nigerians, is in the energy sector. He just raised a funding from Goldman Sachs, about 5 million euros. He has a branch in France, in the UK, and is expanding across Europe. As we speak right now, which is one of the things we do. We have to work with it to say, thank you for all you're doing here. How do we set up this same company, back in Nigeria? And, as somebody who was also passionate and he felt, okay, I need to be able to transfer my skills and knowledge, talking about capacity, he gave us an assignment to say, you guys as President of Nigeria, do the research for me. Once you get that done, I'll be able to launch my company. And this is one of the things we do. To say, we have, and this I've not touched about, if I decide to go to Switzerland and mention Nigerians doing great things, they probably will not live here. And the question really is, this is capacity flying. It takes, people who can see the value, and that, not just, organizations just such as ours, but the government also appreciates that to see how that can be nursed. There was something that happened in Ireland many years ago. Ireland was also trying to develop themselves, and they had something, a very big project called the Gathering. So Ireland also knew this power of diaspora, and they were telling themselves, how can we leverage on them and not the outside investors? And when they did the Gathering, over 300,000 island diaspora members from across the world came home, 300,000 in an event, to see what's happening and what they can do. And you can be sure what that has led to. Some probably did not return back. Some started to set up companies. Some, you have no idea what that translated to in terms of economic, vibrancy for the country. And one thing nations like Ireland has gotten right with respect to China and Korea also, is that there is an incentive for diaspora to come and invest their skills.
Yeah.
So when you look at Korea, they have a sort of incentive. If you are from diaspora, if you're from the US or other countries, they put off some incentives, with respect to tax, with respect to rules that attract the members of the diaspora. So as I speak, I know there's a place for the policy parts, and also there's a place for the willingness parts on the people in diaspora. Tunisia, for instance, is doing something very inspiring. They go as far, not just targeting diasporas, they go also in targeting second generation people. I have many Nigerians probably here right now in the US, and some of you already have a problem. Your kids cannot speak the local language anymore. I mean, they've lost the dialect. You cannot even teach them because even your parents were trying to teach you Yoruba and you couldn't master it. And so there's a cultural gap because language creates affinity. Once language is missing, it's also very hard for you to invite diaspora because diaspora members don't want to go back as a Lagosian and they are saying Bawoni and you are saying Mowakpa. Just like I have French friends, I have some French families here, and when they speak, even the parents, so I mean, once you see a bit of their English is almost gone. I said something like, can you demarrer the laptop? Once demarrer is French word into English, shut down the laptop. I mean, or you see kids saying, daddy, manger. Like, I mean, they can't even speak, and that's English being gone. So what Tunisia did was to create a program that reaches out to the children of their diaspora members on how they can get them inclined with basic cultural elements, because those people will become ambassadors. And that's very important because I know, for instance, across many missions of Nigeria, Nigeria has ambassadors of the country to, we have a Nigerian ambassador in France. But the real truth is that every Nigerian in diaspora is an ambassador. Your job in that company as an expatriate, your job as a student is not just to get a degree. It's not just to make money. It's that you represent the country and you're able to be the bridge, be able to translate it. What kind of transferable skills and knowledge can I do? So it's not really, there's so much the government can do, but I'm saying the onus also lies on people who have already mastered skill. I'll give you a practical example. Somebody came to one of our events, Unity knows about that. He's from Liberia, a very good friend. So that you know what it means to be an ambassador. We have this yearly event called Spotlight Nigeria. We've held it, consecutively for 4 years, except for this year due to the pandemic. And Robert came, to one of our events from one of the African countries. He came also in an African diaspora in France, but he came for a Nigerian Spotlight event where we matchmake Nigerian top CEOs to their French counterparts for business deals. And this young dude came and he saw one of the panels where we had energy, oil and gas, sector. We had these top Nigerians and French people. He walked up to the French, CEO after the event to say, I'm from this part of Africa. This is my country. And I would like to work with you as I speak. I mean, just to cut the long story short, few months down the line, from a Nigerian event, when we were looking for Nigerian France deals, this young chap was taken from France and sent back to his country to head the company. He published that as a report, a success story. And, that was a message to us to say, this is how diasporas should think. I'm not here as a Ghanaian alone. I am a Ghanaian ambassador in my own right. And all I should be looking out for is beyond my personal aspiration. What are the values? What are the transferable skills that I can leverage with my network and make the bridge repairers? That's what it is. And this was a major success story from us. Until today, he has not even returned to France because he's heading the company. And that's why, when we talk about diaspora, I like what Andrew Nevin says, who is also a senior economist in PwC, that the greatest resource, that Nigeria has as a country is not oil, even though that it's the people. Our guys are not just empty guys. When you see Nigerians across the world, there is a common denominator. We don't go there to blend in. Nigerians want to understand the territory and they want to be able to lead in that space. The Nigerians, as I speak to you in France, that in their realm of sector, when you mention top 3 people in their sector, tech or whatever, you can't count 3 persons or 3 companies and not mention them. I mean, and that's people who are not ready to blend in. And just also mention, people wonder, okay, diaspora. It might interest to know that Mark Zuckerberg is a diaspora. He has a Jewish origin. Bernie Sanders is from diaspora. And these are people who have gone, from their countries. They're both Jewish by origin. Went back to the US, started companies that are global. And I mean, you can tell for yourself what Facebook has become today. And that's why it's very important. I saw a record not too long before I go to the top point, that in 2016, Nigeria sent the largest number of African students abroad. We sent 95,000 students 4 years ago from Nigeria. We shipped it. Highest number of African students, 95,000. And that made us number 5, the 5th in the world in terms of overall number of students in foreign study. 95. My question is, now they have gone, how has that translated into open Nigeria? And that's a question for all of us. Some of you are studying master's degree, because this is a critical investment, to the point that some of the investments we'll make in the UK economy from education is propelling the economy to move forward. But how has that helped if all we do is to ship the brains and there's no sort of bridge where the brains can be used to develop back? Because now we're not talking about relocating. I mean, people make impact in the world. I mean, Mark is not relocating to anywhere, and Facebook is everywhere. We're on Zoom right now. Zoom has not relocated from it. I mean, we're talking about creating value based on the fact that you have a safety nest in the country you belong to, and leverage on the prowess, the leverage on the capacity, the leverage on all of the things that to be able to make impact. And the last one, before we close, I talked about capital, I talked about diaspora, capacity. I talked about diaspora consciousness, which is where one of the problems comes from. I saw Nigerian diaspora in a new light during the EdSARS movement, especially in France. Beyond seeing what happened in the UK, across in the US, in Canada, I saw that people were not as selfish as we thought. Sure. Nigerians who probably even had good livelihood came all out to say, no, this is not about me and my family alone. We're fine in Europe. We have our documents. I'm probably I have my nationality sorted out. But these guys came out to let us know something, that we are interested in governance. And that started making me think that if there's already diaspora consciousness, what are the 3 things that we need to do? And the 3 things that we must do with that consciousness is, number 1, to be creative. Number 2 is to collaborate. The name for the game right now is not competition. It's not about silo working. It's collaboration. Number 3 is connections. There's this institute in Washington, Migration Institute in the US in Washington. It says that there are about 450 government institutions in about 55 countries that work with diaspora. There are loads of institutions. In France alone, I know over 40 Nigerian associations. But guess what? Even within the associations, there are riffles. They did not just migrate to France. They migrated nepotism. They migrated the same thing that would not affect, that would not make the country move forward. They brought it into France. So how do people who already have divisions, silos, mindsets, how do we galvanize that? Because imagine coming with one voice. That's what I'm saying. It's about the consciousness is there that we will have governance, but the strategy, for a post-EndSARS level is not. Protest has made the case. There has been brought. The president said, "I've had you." I don't even want to go to that. He says, "I have had you. You guys get out of the street." But beyond the protest now, there has to be something more. Strategy has to come in place. And if you look at the similarity, it's very hard for me to see a Chinese student that is unemployed in France, where I'm based. I studied Chinese diaspora, the Jewish diaspora, and the Indian diaspora in France, where I've studied my road world. You find 2 things there amongst these associations or this group of diaspora folks: self-reliance. That means they come to a country, a Chinese guy does not get a job, they create one and they employ themselves. And that's why you can't see them carrying paper for stage. Stage in France means internship. They finish school, while you are there not for internship, there's a Chinese mogul that has enough roles to take his Chinese folks. The same thing for Jewish. You would never find a Jewish man that is a cleaner. I have not found one, but I've found many Africans, I've found other countries, I've found Americans. you would never find a Jewish person cleaning. The diaspora is so strong that the value within the group is so strong. And that's because of unity. Because somebody is able to say, yes, there's a voice. So even though he's not my friend, he's not my uncle, he's not from this part of Israel or whatever, but he is Jewish, get him a job. And most importantly, they don't even probably look for jobs. They probably create businesses. And that is what we have to start thinking. Diasporas that are still trying to fend for themselves cannot even help. I mean, a part of where we come from Nigeria, they say if you want to give somebody a cloth to wear, they'll first check what you are wearing. You can't give what you don't have. And that's why in the past few years, if you ask, Unity, one of the things we do is rather than just make it outcry, let's invest in Nigeria. Let's get diasporans to be involved. We first ask ourselves, are the diasporans in France, are they fine? Yeah. How many of them are fine? Somebody who's looking for internship has not paid his bills. The last thing he wants to hear is how to develop local governments. So one of the things we do is to galvanize resources. Unity can be a witness of how many calls we've made and how many meetings we've scheduled just to help Nigerians amongst our network get jobs. As we speak right now, we've signed a partnership with an international body to provide Nigerian in diaspora, starting from France, especially Nigerians, not even other Africans, to get them jobs across Europe. And the game is simple. We are thinking governance in Nigeria, but we need these people to be together and be fine before we can even think of affecting the nation. And we can only even do much as an organization. And that's why it's very important that we all begin to, harness resources. We can't work in silos. So, and that's the problem with my generation. It's everybody, like God bless was saying, everybody wants to be the face. Everybody, there are things friends in Nigeria that we never get ourselves involved with. And that's why our mission is clear. We're a professional group, but we can collaborate with other people. Wherever you have been called to, we are ready to partner. One of our core values is synergy. And that's what has brought us to where we are today. And that's why for me, even respect what is happening in the US election, check what is happening. I saw the statistics. One of the major, highlights when it comes to Biden and Trump, as we speak right now, I saw a report. One of the major difference in the voting brackets is that 62% of people voted for Biden in the age bracket of 18 to 29. So when you look at 18 to 29, young people, 2% of them voted for Biden and not Trump. The young people are awake, and now they've been able to galvanize their voices to make demands on governance, and that's what we need. But for us in diaspora, it's not just time to Sorosoke. I know we can Sorosoke, but we must strategize. And in rounding up, I tell people, Martin Luther King had a dream, but dreams are not valid in themselves. Hope is cool, dream is fine, passion is useful, but all of this must be harnessed in a concrete strategy. He had a dream, somebody had to strategize that dream and make sure that Black people have a voice in the States. And that's what we need as of now. It's not about having fire and passion. And uncontrolled fire is an hazard. You need to be able to control fire to make it cook for you. And that's why I think the young generation now is, we need to be strategic in our call for good governance. We need to harness our voices. We need to harness our resources, and then we can birth the future that we anticipate. I'll stop there. Yeah.
Amazing. When you hear someone who is a practitioner speak, there's a difference between someone who is practicing and someone who has studied this subject. Thank you for those thoughts. Like Abiodun mentioned, we are active in this space, and we are looking forward to more collaborations. There are already models that work. Like you mentioned, the Jewish community, India, Israel, there are models that work already. It's not just, there's a conversation currently about brain circulation. There's brain drain, brain gain, and brain circulation. You go, you get equipped with knowledge, like you said, in India, they go back and set up companies. They go back and set up businesses. You mentioned a French company that is looking to set up in the energy sector that we worked with, in finding actual data in Nigeria. So we need a collaboration. We need to be ambassadors, like Abiodun said. We need to if you read the book Startup Nation by Paul Singer and another co-author, he mentioned about how every Jewish person is an ambassador of the country. So they are selling their businesses and they're also selling their country. And we have a lot to do in the area of that. And that's how the diaspora can also contribute to good governance. Thank you, Abiodun, for those points. I don't know if we have questions to take because Abiodun has to run in a few minutes. I have questions for Abiodun also, but I don't know if we have the time. Yeah, so if we have questions, can we put them out there? Just before he leaves, Abiodun is doing a lot of work in the diaspora space. We are working with a lot of virtually all the stakeholders, both internationally and locally. We're working with the Nigerian Diaspora Commission as well. We've had them at our event prior to now. And we're looking at how we can galvanize these resources to build back the walls of our country. It's not new. There's nothing new under the sun. Nehemiah was out in the Bible and he had to gather the resources in terms of God.